Hi and welcome back. This is Dianne Legro, and I have the honor of talking again with Sandy Costa. Sandy is author of Humanity at Work, and Sandy, I want to thank you again for your generosity in making this information accessible with this interview series. All in this series of the 7 tips you wrote for people to create more humanity at work. It's also a journey about who you become when you practice these things, which is going to be adding such quality to people's lives who practice and who listen and who pay attention, who want to live mindfully and who want to lead better and have better companies. Your book, Humanity at Work, is being read at this time when people all over the world are standing up right now, so wanting the very kind of change you're showing us how to achieve. It's really an exciting gift you bring, and I want to thank you again for putting your ideas out there so people can find them at your web, and a little later I'll tell them how they can find you at your website, sandycosta.com. So thank you again.
Thank you, Diane. It's delighted to be here again.
All right, so today we're going to talk about servant leadership. This is something that I'm passionate about as well, and I know you are. You've written about it in your book, Humanity at Work. So what do you mean when you talk about your experience with servant leadership and the ways we can become more of a servant leader and help people also lead their own lives and their work lives better? Talk to us about that a little bit.
I'd be delighted to, Diane. I learned, I think I've told you this, I learned quite a lot from my dad, who was in the garment industry for 50 years. He ran his own business, and I think that long before Robert Greenleaf coined the term servant leader, my father was a servant leader. My father spent his time lifting the burdens of the people who worked for him. I think one of the problems that we have with the term, and some people find it to be counterintuitive, and the reason I say that is that there's a lot of people who believe that as they move up through an organization, that it's the duty of the people around them to be working to make them more successful because they've gotten to a greater status in the company or such. And it's actually just the opposite. As you move up in an organization, more and more it's your duty and responsibility to make sure that the people around you flourish. And if you have the courage to do that, you will find that you will succeed all the more. I tell a story. I had played golf with Johnny Unitas several years before he died. And as you may recall, he was voted the National Football League Player of the Century, a very successful quarterback. And after he died, I read a biography on his life. I don't read a lot of sports biographies, but I found it very interesting. And one of the things that the author talked about was that when Unitas went into a huddle to call a play, before he'd called a play, he would look at the players and say, "What can I do to help you?" He wanted to know what play they thought they could run that they could succeed at. It really showed him to be a servant leader. Rather than being concerned about running plays that he thought he could succeed at, that he thought would be a winning play, he wanted to make sure he was using the plays that his players thought they could succeed at. And that really is the concept of servant leadership. I think servant leadership brings in the attributes that leaders have, such as being able to listen, having empathy, having awareness for the situations around them. And it also is important to understand that servant leaders are stewards. We hear the term stewardship used a lot. For example, it's used to describe people who are stewards for the land that they take care of, or countries are stewards of the land that they put aside for national parks and the like. And we are, in fact, stewards of the organizations and the people who work for us. And in thinking about that term, you have to recognize that when you're thinking about stewardship, what you're really saying is an understanding that people who work in an organization don't have a contractual relationship with that organization. They have a covenantal relationship, because a covenant is a shared commitment. And stewards understand that to succeed, for everyone to succeed in an organization, there has to be a shared commitment. They also recognize the need to bring humanity to the people who work for them. My dad often talked to me about the people who worked for him, Diane, and he never said he was responsible for 40 or 50 people. He always said to me he was responsible for 40 or 50 families, which I think brings a tenet to the whole subject of servant leadership and stewardship.
What an extraordinary man your dad was.
He was a wonderful man.
And he had an extraordinary son.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.
Sandy, that was beautiful. And even if we just take away the ideas and the simple sentence, what can I do to help you? And use it more today. That was beautiful. I want to thank you again.
Dianne.
Yes. And tomorrow we'll be talking about manifesting your own reality, your ideas about how to use self-talk. We all have self-talk. We think 60,000 thoughts a day. We speak 25,000. Who are we talking to? Ourselves. We are going to be talking about your ideas about how to create positive outcomes using your self-talk. Being emotionally competent is later on in the series, so I'm really excited, and thank you again for the tips that you wrote based on your book, Humanity at Work. People can find you at your website, Santo Costa, SantoCosta.com. I know I'll be going there to download these recordings so I can keep them and re-listen to you.
Thank you, Dianne.
All right, have a wonderful day. Talk to
you
you
as well. Bye-bye.